Conflict-affected areas tell stories of affected infrastructure, water resource challenges, deforestation, and oil pollution. The devastation surely reveals that wars have far-ranging consequences beyond our imaginations. When the guns are put down, the war might be over, and the fighting might have been stopped, but its impacts just begin from there on. Legacy munitions, land grabbing, and governance vacuums all contribute to unprecedented environmental damage whose impacts are compounded by climate change, habitat destruction, extinction, and mass movements and migrations. Ideally, before invading a country or declaring war, there is a dire need to assess environmental risks, protect civilians from environmental harm, assist victims after conflicts, remediate damage, and deploy environmentally sound measures to regenerate ecosystems. But why, in the first place, are wars so harmful to the environment, and what are the consequences that we are bound to face? Hi guys, welcome back. You are watching Discovery Video and I am Vitor. In this video, I am going to talk about the environmental consequences of war, whether on people or the ecosystem. There is no escape from the devastation of the war, and our environment struggles the most. This damage begins long before the war starts and continues to cause devastation long after the war has been concluded. That is why in this video, I have decided to break down the consequences of the war both before and after the actual war. Being informed is the first step towards betterment, and when it comes to these situations, every one of us shares a responsibility. So, make sure you watch the video till the end and don't miss any detail. With that being said, let's get started. But before jumping into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, so stay updated with our upcoming videos. Let's get started. To start with, let's just see how environmental damage begins even before the conflict starts. When a country or nation thinks of war, they build and sustain military forces, which in turn consume vast quantities of resources, including common metals or rare earth elements, water, or hydrocarbons. Above all, military emergency calls for training, which means using military vehicles, aircraft, vessels, buildings, and infrastructure that all require energy, and in major instances, the energy is the fuel, which is oil, petroleum, gas, etc. And that is why the CO2 emissions of the largest militaries are greater than many of the world's countries combined. Then when we come to military lands, they need large areas of land and sea, whether for bases and facilities or for testing and training. And as these areas are not used in ecologically sustainable ways, we can surely expect disruption to landscapes and terrestrial and marine habitats and chemical and noise pollution from the use of weapons, aircraft, and vehicles. To add to your information, around 1 to 6% of the global land surface are these military lands, which are the hub of environmental destruction. If that wasn't enough, we have more in the name of renewing military equipment and disposing off the old, from the most hazardous nuclear and chemical weapons that are lethal to the environment throughout their life cycle to conventional weapons, which are disposed off through open burning or detonation at the cost of severe carbon emission leading to global warming. And to many of your surprise, in the past vast quantities of munitions were also dumped at sea. With the competition for resources and due to high levels of military spending, we are left with less for solving environmental problems and for sustainable development. The environmental damage during the war may vary greatly depending upon several factors. Some wars may be brief but extremely destructive, and others may last decades providing equal havoc on the environment. Pollution is the one obvious consequence, though there are hundreds of other impacts that may not be similarly obvious though may be equally damaging to the environment. Let's start from the obvious ones: the use of vast quantities of fuel, leading to massive CO2 emissions and contributing to climate change, large-scale vehicle movements that can lead to widespread physical damage to sensitive landscapes, and geodiversity-intensive use of explosive ordnance. Everything wrecks our environment in the worst possible way. Moreover, the use of explosive weapons in urban areas also creates debris and rubble, leading to air and soil pollution. The destruction covers any and everything in the way, from buildings to water treatment plants, to whatnot. More dangerously, the damage to agricultural infrastructures like canals, wells, and pumps and the burning of crops threaten food security and livelihoods, increasing the vulnerability of rural communities and also disrupting the complex food chains. This has no end in any way. Nuclear waste such as depleted uranium affect generations. Moreover, weapons such as white phosphorus are not only toxic but can also damage habitats through fire. Depending upon the scale of conflicts, large volumes of military scrap may be produced or abandoned. This contains a range of polluting materials, contaminating soils and groundwater, spontaneously exposing associated with acute and chronic health risks. Additionally, wrecked or damaged ships, submarines, and offshore oil containers can cause marine pollution. Coming to the animals, national parks and protected areas may lose the protection they had, especially with armed poachers. This, in turn, will lead to more militarized conservation, affecting the relationships with local communities. Moreover, animals would have to flee from their natural habitat, affecting and complicating biodiversities. Some animals may not at all be prepared for migration and can reach the verge of extinction. In fact, they may be directly killed by the military proceedings. As obvious as it may seem, deforestation may be the direct or indirect consequence of the wars. It may be due to the increased need for charcoal and wood, or maybe by some criminal groups taking advantage of the chaos. Human displacement is the most common environmental disturbance of many conflicts. Camps for refugees and forcibly displaced peoples leave environmental footprints, particularly where they are unplanned or lack essential services like water, sanitation, and waste management. The location also matters a lot, as refugees are compelled to use local resources such as firewood, which can place local resources under pressure. People displaced by conflicts may prefer to move internally to more resourceful urban areas, swelling the population and placing local environmental services under stress. Due to primary attention being given to the war and its needs, governments may not be to fulfill their international environmental obligations. In this way, a conflict may harm the environment nationally by impacting governance and projects countrywide. So wars take us back not just because of new damage but in the development that would have taken place if there wasn't a conflict in the first place. However, there are times when the existence of conflict itself exposed unsustainable development that would otherwise have taken place in areas that are insecure. But overall, and particularly because of the disruption conflicts cause to societies, to governance and to the environment, the downs far outweigh the benefits. With this, we come to the end of the video. I hope you understand it. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, and give this video a big thumbs up.